Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Glor. Israel says 6 of its own citizens have been arrested for a horrific crime. Tonight, the Prime Minister says justice will be done. The arrests come 4 days after a Palestinian teenager was found beaten and then burned over 90% of his body. That killing apparently revenge for the deaths of 3 Israeli boys who were kidnapped last month. Benjamin Netanyahu said today, "We do not differentiate between the terrorists and we will respond to all of them." We begin with Alex Ortiz in Tel Aviv.
The battle between Palestinian youth and Israeli security forces is now in its 5th day, and there's no sign the unrest is letting up, with Palestinian crowds still angry about the abduction and killing of 16-year-old Mohammed Abu Khader. He was burned alive. Israeli police have arrested 6 Jewish suspects for questioning in what they believe is a hate crime. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today vowed the perpetrators of Mohammed's horrific murder will face the full weight of the law. Meanwhile today, beaten and bruised, 15-year-old Palestinian-American Tarek Abu Khader was finally released into the arms of his family. He was arrested last week as riots raged in East Jerusalem. Tell me what happened.
I was standing watching the protest. There were 2-3 specialized cops with equipment, and they were running at me.
Tarek told us he jumped over a fence running to get away from the chaos. That's when Israeli forces grabbed him here, and this is what happened next.
They punched me, they kicked me, they kicked me in my face. They made sure I wasn't able to see anything. I wasn't even breathing.
And they didn't stop when they were carrying you?
They didn't stop. They were carrying me and still kicking me and punching me, even when I was unconscious.
Okay. Though exhausted and injured, Tarek is now safe, but haunted by the death of his cousin Mohammed.
Because I can still remember his voice in my head. It's like he's still here, just that nobody can see him.
But here, Mohammed's face is everywhere, and no one will forget him. For days now, political leaders here have been urging restraint and promising justice, but the question is whether that will be enough to contain the anger on both sides. Jeff?
Iraq launched 3 airstrikes on the northern city of Mosul today as intelligence experts tried to verify the identity of a man seen on a much-discussed video yesterday. Charlie D'Agata is in Baghdad.
Iraqi officials won't say for certain that the man in this video is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, leader of the most feared militant group in Iraq, making a very public appearance in the city of Mosul. Today, the Iraqi military spokesman said analysts are still studying the video. Al-Baghdadi's ISIS militant group, made up of Sunni extremists, has been battling Iraq's largely Shiite government forces and destroying Shiite holy sites in territory under their control. In an effort to stop them, Shiite militias have formed an army in the city of Samarra, the site of one of their holiest shrines. But ISIS has also leveled Sunni shrines in the belief they're against their more strict form of Islam.
This is one of the largest Sunni shrines in Baghdad, and the people that we've spoken to here say they have suffered the most under this government. Yet when we asked if they were worried about an increase in sectarian violence considering what's happening here, we got mixed opinions.
They're a terrorist gang, said Haji Yusuf, the shrine's community leader. If they come to Baghdad, they will demolish the shrines.
Even Sunni?
Yes. But Ahmed Kadir, a Sunni and former soldier, believes ISIS will fail in its aim to start a sectarian war because Iraqis will unite to fight a common enemy. We're not scared, he told us. We fought many wars with Iran, even the United States. Many of those in the mosque won't be able to remember a time when there wasn't war. Now, it's just a question of how bad it gets.
It may be hard to believe, but some of the people we spoke to said they still have faith in the Iraqi army to stop ISIS more were putting their faith in God. One thing many had in common was the belief that should ISIS militants reach Baghdad, it could be the start of an all-out civil war.
The TSA announced increased security at many overseas airports today. It will not allow cell phones or other electronics on flights bound for the U.S. if those devices can't power on. Mark Strassman has more on that.
Today's announcement tightening airport security applies to flights originating from Europe and the Middle East, bound for the United States. In security lines overseas, travelers will be asked to turn on personal electronics such as cell phones and tablets. Any device discovered to have no power won't be allowed on the plane. 19-year-old Brent Sahadi is headed to Israel and intends to charge his devices before he flies back in 3 weeks.
I know how much safer I'm going to feel knowing that the security is going to be much stronger than it was before.
In a statement, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson said, "We will continue to adjust security measures to promote aviation security without unnecessary disruptions to the traveling public." The government says no new specific intelligence led to today's stepped-up measures, but devices that can be used as explosives or to trigger explosives are an ongoing threat. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has targeted airlines in the past. In October of 2010, plastic explosives were discovered hidden inside printers on 2 cargo flights from Yemen to the United States. Another concern to U.S. intelligence officials are an unknown number of Westerners who have traveled to Syria and Iraq to join the fighting. Westerners sometimes receive less scrutiny from airport security overseas. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson travels to Guatemala this week as the U.S. tries to convince Central American parents not to send their children nearly 2,000 miles north across the U.S. border. More than 52,000 unaccompanied minors have been taken into custody during the current fiscal year that began last October. That is almost double the number during the entire preceding fiscal year. Here's Mark Albert.
Hundreds more undocumented immigrants, many of them women and children, arrived this weekend by plane in San Diego and by bus in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Their fate is still uncertain as the government scrambles to house and process the sudden influx of illegal border crossers. Appearing today on NBC, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson would not say if they'd be deported.
We're looking at options, added flexibility to deal with the children in particular, but in a humanitarian and fair way.
But Democrat Henry Cuellar, whose Texas district sits along the U.S.-Mexico border, says when it comes to immigration, the Obama administration is playing catch-up.
Without due respect to the administration, they're one step behind. They should have seen this coming a long time ago. They should have seen this a long time ago.
Texas Governor Rick Perry said the solution is better border security to keep immigrants from crossing over in the first place.
We have a huge problem on our southern border. We have to deal with it, and I don't think you're going to be able to address it until you put the resources there, and that's boots on the ground.
But Senate Democrat Dick Durbin said the U.S. needs better immigration policy, including tougher punishment for those who profit when parents send their children north.
These smugglers and coyotes ought to be hit with the hardest penalties we can possibly come up with. The fact that they would lure these children into this deadly journey is just unspeakable. It is an awful crime.
It is the latest chapter in an ugly summer battle over books, and now authors are taking sides. Late last week, Amazon responded to accusations that it's bullying the Hachette Publishing Group. Amazon in May stopped selling pre-orders for Hachette books as part of an e-pricing dispute. Joining us with more on all of this is Peter Hildig-Smith. He's with the Codex Group, a digital book research firm. Peter, in the last 5 years, Amazon's share of new books sold has gone from an extraordinary 12% to 40%. What are they fighting over here?
Well, they're fighting about 3 things. First, they're fighting about the price of ebooks. Amazon's growth has been largely driven by their ability to do very deep discounting, often at their own expense. It's also about having a balanced book market. Hachette would like to have lots of other places to distribute books, and as Amazon continues to put discount pressure on book prices, it makes it harder for other book retailers to be profitable and to succeed. And the third piece is really about book access. As you lose the ability to find books in stores like Walmart or Barnes & Noble or Target, people who are infrequent book readers read fewer books.
The man bitten by a great white shark off the coast of Southern California this weekend is now home from the hospital and tonight is sharing his story. Here's Terry Okita.
Very few have an encounter like this and live to tell the tale.
I was staring at this shark face to face, looking at his eyeballs as he bit right into me.
Stephen Robles says the entire attack took just 3 seconds.
I had absolutely no time to react. I felt that crunch right into my chest and that compression with the teeth coming in my ribs.
He credits his training as an ocean swimmer to know what he had to do.
Just instinctively, I used my right hand to grab its nose and just tried to yank it off of me. And then once I got that shark off, it disappeared right away. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and you could hear me just in absolute terror, screaming for my life.
Word spread quickly to those still swimming.
Hey, get out of the water! Shark! Hey, get out of the water!
Get out of Shark!
The water! Robles was pulled to safety, then hospitalized for deep cuts in his chest and hand.
It's crazy how fast something can turn, how your life can just change instantly. I've swum in that water my whole life, over 40 years. Sharks are not interested in people. This stuff just doesn't happen.
But it happened this time because a man fishing off the Manhattan Beach Pier had caught the shark on his line, witnesses say for 40 minutes.
By the time he cut that line loose, I was in the wrong spot at the wrong time. That the shark was agitated, and I was the first thing he saw. I know that it very easily could have gone the other way. The shark could have pulled me underwater. I could have drowned.
Robles loves the sea. He spent most of his life in the water, but for the moment,
I'm not ready to go in the ocean right now.
He's fine being on shore.
New York City firefighters are in mourning today after the death of one of their own. 40-year-old firefighter Lieutenant Gordon Embellis was killed on Saturday night, searching for victims of a fire in a 21-story building in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn.
He led his members into a 19th floor apartment at 75 Wilson Street, searching for anyone who may have been trapped inside. While doing this dangerous job, Lieutenant Embellis became trapped in the fire.
The fire broke out on the 19th floor of the building on Saturday night and quickly spread to the 17th and 18th floors. New York's fire commissioner says Embellis sustained multiple injuries inside the apartment. Other firefighters found him unconscious and were not able to save him.
Lieutenant Embellis died doing what fire officers do, leading firefighters in search for life. And unfortunately, on this evening, Lieutenant Embellis went into the apartment to search for life and did not come out. And by the time his brother firefighters found him, it was too late for him.
2 other firefighters were treated at a hospital for minor injuries, and 2 residents were treated at the scene.
An Indianapolis police officer is dead after a Saturday night shootout. Police say 2 officers were approaching a group of unidentified subjects when one man, 25-year-old Major Davis Jr., opened fire. The officers returned fire. Officer Perry Wren was pronounced dead at a hospital. Davis was critically wounded and faces preliminary murder charges. Less than 24 hours earlier in Indianapolis, 7 people were shot on Broad Ripple Street, an area filled with popular bars.
Someone opened fires in a crowd like that. We're lucky there weren't more people hit.
Police and witnesses say crowds were gathered early Saturday morning after July 4th fireworks when 2 people apparently bumped into each other and got into a fight.
You hear 5 to 6 gunshots go off, and people were diving behind cars. People were running in all different directions to get away from the gunfire. You know, there's multiple people on the ground.
One 23-year-old man was arrested on preliminary firearms charges. Authorities say they don't know who may have actually opened fire.
Search for answers in that deadly 4th of July boat crash that killed 4 people in a busy Florida marina. It is a grim reminder that this can be the most dangerous time for boaters, but there are ways to stay safe. ABC's Alex Perez has the story tonight.
A celebration ends in tragedy. Just as the fireworks show wrapped up in Miami Friday night, a deadly collision. One boat slams into another. That driver thrown into the water, the collision leaving this gaping hole.
It's a tragedy for us to see something like this happen.
This is probably the worst accident that I've seen in my 11-year.
The victims all in their 20s. 2 killed instantly. Another 2 died after being thrown into the water by the crash. 7 injured. The scene so bad, grief counselors called in to help first responders.
A lot of people were affected as a result of what happened.
Last summer, 83 people died during the month of July in boating accidents.
And crowded marinas this time of year, big problem?
It is a big problem. You have people going to restaurants, you have people that will dock in areas that they shouldn't be docked, so it's not always easy.
Safety experts say it's critical to follow some basic boating rules. Make sure all lighting and sound signals are working properly. Avoid alcohol. Don't exceed maximum passenger capacity. 2 years ago, an overcrowded yacht sank after a July 4th fireworks celebration in New York, killing 3 children.
And experts say there are a few things you should always remember when getting on a boat. Always know where the life vests are and make sure there's at least 1 vest per person. Always carry your cell phone with you. And remember to tell people where you're going to be. Simple tips, they say, that could save your life. Elizabeth?
A narrow escape. In Mashan County, Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region, torrential rains haven't stopped for 2 days, and there's no immediate relief in the forecast. This man spent more than 8 hours trapped on a tree, fearing he'd be swept away by floodwaters. His friends are helpless to help.
His car stalled and he called us for help. He had to climb that tree because it's very dangerous to stay in his car.
Help finally arrived at around 3 in the morning, but the relentless rain and darkness were too treacherous to attempt a rescue before daybreak. Finally, the man is brought to safety, allowing rescuers to rush to save another man who was trapped by floods for 12 hours. To the northeast in Mibei County, Hunan Province, heavy rains triggered landslides and flooded villages. 1 local person has been killed, and more than 1,000 residents have been forced to relocate. The rain has stopped in Mibei County, but residents remain shaken by the devastation.
I heard loud sounds and saw my neighbor's house torn down. It was like a bomb exploding. I immediately ran out of my house without my cell phone.
From mountainous areas to the city center, downpours have inundated many roads in the city of Chongyang, Hubei province. The rain caused traffic chaos, and residents living in low-lying area have been particularly hard hit by the rising waters.
Our house is flooded and all electrical appliances have been damaged. We had no time to get them out.
Other forecasters say northeast and southwest China will continue to be pelted by heavy rains over the next 2 days. Residents are advised to take precautions and beware of the potential for landslides.
Indonesia's presidential candidates aren't just sparring in person, they're also sparring online. Social media is massively popular in Indonesia, and they're all talking about the election.
They will sit together and then they tweet it together. They have like the unique hashtag to unite their movement.
For an idea of just how active Indonesia is on Twitter, look at this map. Well, it tracks tweets in real time across the globe. The bigger the white areas, the more tweets are being sent. Well, you would expect plenty of activity from the US and Europe, but look at how many tweets are coming from Indonesia. And it's not just Twitter. Well, Facebook launched this official election tool, and you can see how each candidate is doing and track who's getting mentioned more on Facebook. Well, the country has over 69 million Facebook users, which is a remarkable number, given that few Indonesians have access to the internet. But that also means that social media cannot fully gauge public opinion.
It has to cross over the mainstream media like television and newspaper and radio, so everybody can watch and understand and see what's happening.
For now, social media is changing the way elections work in Indonesia, and its impact will only grow as more and more Indonesians go online.
Yesterday, 5th of July 2014, at around 11 p.m. at Gamba area in Tana Delta, an armed group of about 30 to 50 people attacked police officers who were manning Gamba police station. There was a fierce shootout, and one group of the attackers sneaked and killed 5 people who were being held in one of the cells. And one police officer died while engaging the attackers, and 2 others received injuries. The attackers were finally overpowered by police officers, and as they fled, they came across a lorry, and they fatally shot 3 occupants and commandeered it to an unknown destination. Investigations have been launched to determine the motive and apprehend the attackers. While in Lamu County, an unknown number of persons attacked Hindi area at around the same time, 11 p.m. They burned 7 houses, including a church, killed 12 people and injured 2.
Three missiles from F-16 aircraft bombed the place. At first, a rocket fell on the farm and the second missile targeted the home. The area of the house is 130 square meters and it cost 15,000 Jordanian dinars, and the farm bombed by the third rocket will cost 25,000 Jordanian dinars. We weren't here. We were in the city and we heard the sound of shelling east of the city. We came here and found everything destroyed. They say it is a military site and training here. I say it's agricultural land and has the poultry farm and a house.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has met Sunday with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who arrived in Beijing after first stopping in southwest province of Sichuan. In their talks, Li Keqiang said Berlin is an important cooperative partner and that the visit by President Xi Jinping in March this year has brought consensus on bilateral relations. The Premier said he believes Merkel's visit to Chengdu will help promote cooperation between China's vast western areas and Germany. He also emphasized that development and improving people's lives are China's priorities and a peaceful and stable global environment is equally critical. He said Beijing is willing to work with Berlin to achieve a long-lasting, peaceful and prosperous world. For her part, Merkel also stressed the importance of Sino-German ties. She said Germany is willing to cooperate on regional and world affairs and help advance world peace and development.
I'm here because my son was severely beaten by Israeli soldiers, and they threw him in jail, not considering the fact that he needs medical attention. Well, his cousin, Mohammed Bukhdair, was abducted and burned to death. There was a huge protest. Everybody was protesting. We needed a voice to voice our anger.
I was attacked by a couple of cops, and while they were hitting me, I fell asleep. I went unconscious, and then I went to the hospital, and from the hospital I went to jail.
They didn't score. They couldn't. 90 minutes without a goal. We're great. We love the team. Viva the team. Viva the Ticos.
We are a small and united country. We can be great, and we are telling the world. We are great. We are Costa Rica. Go Ticos. More now than ever, we are proud of our team, of our colours. White, blue and red. Viva Costa Rica!
Rica.